Born into the ring, the Hearn legacy begins. Eddie Hearn was born into the world of boxing. His father, Barry Hearn, was a legendary promoter. Barry had built Matchroom Sport into a powerhouse. It wasn't just boxing. Matchroom was a giant in darts, snooker, and more. Eddie grew up surrounded by athletes. He learned the promotional game from a master. From a young age, Eddie was a fixture at ringside. He watched his father negotiate deals. He saw the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat firsthand. It was an exciting and often chaotic world. Yet, Eddie was captivated. He knew he wanted to follow in his father's footsteps. However, Eddie was determined to forge his own path. He didn't just want to inherit his father's company. He wanted to build on it. He wanted to modernize it. Eddie had a vision for the future of boxing. It was a future where the sport was more accessible, more entertaining, and more global. Early rounds Matchroom's rocky start. In 2004, Eddie officially joined Matchroom. He focused on the boxing division. It wasn't an easy start. The boxing world was a tough business. Many saw Eddie as just the boss's son. They didn't take him seriously. He had to work twice as hard to prove himself. Eddie was relentless. He traveled the country, scouting fighters. He spent countless hours on the phone negotiating deals. He was determined to sign the best talent. He wanted to put on the biggest fights. Slowly but surely, he started to make a name for himself. His early shows were often held in smaller venues. The crowds were modest, but Eddie had a knack for spotting talent. He also had a keen understanding of what fans wanted. He started to build a loyal following. These fans appreciated his passion and his vision. Haymaker, a star emerges, launching a promoter. Eddie's breakthrough came with David Haye. Haye was a charismatic and explosive cruiserweight champion. He had star power. Eddie saw his potential. He signed Haye to Matchroom. He moved him up to heavyweight. It was a gamble, but Eddie was confident. He orchestrated a brilliant promotional campaign. It generated massive public interest. In 2009, Haye faced the giant Nikolai Valuev for the WBA heavyweight title. The fight was a huge pay-per-view success. Haye's knockout victory made him a global star. It also launched Eddie Hearn into the big leagues of boxing promotion. Suddenly, Eddie was the hottest promoter in boxing. He had shown he could deliver big fights. He could create stars. He was no longer just Barry Hearn's son. He was Eddie Hearn, a force to be reckoned with. The DAZN disruption rewriting the rules of the game. In 2018, Eddie made a move that would shake up the boxing world. He signed a groundbreaking $1 billion deal with DAZN. DAZN was a new streaming service. It was hungry to compete with the established pay-per-view giants. The deal gave DAZN exclusive rights to stream Matchroom fights in the United States. This partnership was a game changer. It disrupted the traditional pay-per-view model. It made boxing more accessible to fans. No longer did they have to shell out $80 or $90 for a single fight. They could watch a whole year of Matchroom fights on DAZN for a fraction of the cost. The deal was not without its critics. Some questioned whether DAZN could handle the financial burden. Others worried about the long-term implications for the sport. But Eddie was confident. He believed this was the future of boxing. He was determined to make it work. A stable of stars, from Joshua to Canelo and beyond. With DAZN behind him, Eddie went on a signing spree. He secured some of the biggest names in boxing. Anthony Joshua, the unified heavyweight champion, became the face of Matchroom. He was joined by stars like Canelo Alvarez, Gennady Golovkin, and Katie Taylor. Eddie was building a global boxing empire. He was staging fights all over the world. From Madison Square Garden to Wembley Stadium, Matchroom fights were selling out arenas. Eddie had become a master of promotion. He knew how to build anticipation. He knew how to create narratives. He knew how to put on a show. He wasn't afraid to make the big fights. He pitted his fighters against the best in the world. He made fights that fans demanded. He was criticized for some of his matchmaking, but there was no denying that Eddie Hearn was making boxing exciting again. Fight Hype 2.0, social media and the new age of promotion. Eddie embraced social media like no promoter before him. He understood its power. He used it brilliantly to connect with fans. He used it to build hype for his fights. He was constantly tweeting. He was going live on Instagram. He was giving fans behind-the-scenes access. He wasn't afraid to be brash. He wasn't afraid to be controversial. He knew how to get people talking He understood that in the world of boxing, any publicity was good publicity. His social media presence made him a celebrity in his own right. He used social media to give his fighters a platform. He helped them build their brands. He made them more accessible to fans. This new approach to promotion revolutionized the sport. It brought boxing to a whole new generation of fans. It made the sport more popular than ever. Gloves on, confronting criticism and controversy. Eddie's meteoric rise wasn't without its bumps. He faced his share of criticism. Some accused him of favoring certain fighters, others questioned his matchmaking. There were controversies over judging and scoring. There were accusations of shady business practices. Eddie never shied away from confrontation. He defended himself and his fighters fiercely. He engaged in public spats with other promoters. He used his platform to fire back at his critics. He was a polarizing figure, but even his detractors couldn't deny his impact on the sport. He had brought new money into boxing. He had created opportunities for fighters. He had made the sport more popular than ever. He had revolutionized the way boxing was promoted. He had become one of the most powerful figures in the sport. The next round, Hearn's vision for the future of boxing. Eddie Hearn is not slowing down. He has big plans for the future of boxing. He wants to continue to grow the sport globally. He wants to make it more accessible to fans around the world. He wants to sign the next generation of superstars. He is constantly innovating. He is exploring new technologies. He is looking for new ways to engage fans. He is determined to keep boxing at the forefront of the combat sports world. He is a man on a mission. Eddie Hearn is a force of nature. He is a master promoter. He is a polarizing figure. But one thing is for sure, he loves boxing and he will continue to shape its future for years to come.